Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria of Through the Peacock's Eyes. Welcome to my channel and welcome to the 2021 Year Ahead Vedic Astrology readings. These readings will be based on your Vedic Astrology ascendant or moon sign. You can listen to both to kind of get a fuller picture of the year ahead. If you don't know your Vedic Astrology ascendant or moon sign, you can Google search a free online Vedic Astrology calculator and you should be able to get those there. Make sure it says it is Vedic Astrology or Indian Astrology or Sidereal Astrology, so you can get the correct signs. And they'll likely to be a sign different than your Western astrology ones, though there is a little overlap in there as well. Now, during these videos, I may reference a few of the things, the books, the decks I've created that I created to help other people learn Vedic astrology. The first one is my book, Shedding Light on Jyotisha, Vedic Astrology for Beginners, and I have a video or two on my channel where I talk about that a little bit more in depth, but the links are all down below in the description box if you're interested in checking that out. I also have a Vedic Astrology Oracle and the Vedic Astrology Study Deck, which would be a great tool to learn Vedic astrology. I also have a course, Shedding Light on Your Karma and Dharma in Vedic Astrology. It's a mini course. It's about an hour and a half long. Bunch of little videos broken up, and it's only $11. Again, the link is below if you want to check that out to start to learn how to look at your chart and look at your karma and dharma. Like, why are you here? What are you here to do? What are you here to learn? How are you here to grow? I will be hopefully soon in the new year have my next course, which I go through the nakshatras in Vedic astrology. Journey through the nakshatras is probably the title. I haven't officiated that yet. So hopefully that will be out soon or in the early part of 2021. And if you're interested in a reading for the year ahead, Vedic astrology, I also do Western astrology, tarot readings. Those you can purchase on my website. I will be reopening readings November 22nd or so. I've been closed for a while to focus on my book. So you can sign up for my newsletter to be notified or just check back to my website, juliannevictoria.com. Again, links are all below if you want to book a reading with me or schedule a recorded reading for the year ahead for you. Okay, all that being said, let's move on to your horoscope for the year ahead. The charts you will see will be charts laid out based on your ascendant or moon sign, so you, the viewer, can have a clearer understanding of where the transits are as the year begins and how that lays out for you for the year ahead. All right, thank you everyone and enjoy your reading. Hi Virgo, welcome to your year ahead for 2021, your Vedic astrology reading or horoscope. So here I have a chart pulled up where we have your sign, Virgo or Kanya, as the first house, and this is just to give you reference for the year. At midnight on January 21st, this happens to be the chart, and this shows you where all the planets are as the year begins, and that's going to give you sort of a layout for the year ahead. So let's start with the outer planets. I'm going to focus on that, which is Jupiter, Saturn, as well as the nodes Rahu and Ketu, because they're going to have the greatest impact, of course, over the year. And the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars move much more quickly, as well as the sun, of course. So let's start with Jupiter and Saturn down here. In your chart, whether you're Virgo ascendant or Virgo moon, this lays in your 5th house. So we have the house numbers here. Oh, if you're not familiar, house numbers are here on the perimeter. These are the signs and these are the planets. So I did make a video talking about Jupiter and Saturn together because they do this dance together and coming apart and back together and coming apart. I will link that. I'll probably pin that at the top of the comments for you so it's easy to find, where I talk about how to work with their energies together. But as the year begins, we have both Saturn and Jupiter here in the sign of Capricorn. So that energy is sort of set into play for the year ahead for you. Saturn will be in Capricorn the entire year. Jupiter will be here until mid-April when he moves into Aquarius, and then he moves back in September until the end of November. So Saturn and Jupiter here in your 5th house. 5th house is the house of creativity, romance, as well as children. So children's are things you create. It's also a house of often like entrepreneurship is put into here because that's very creative energy. So things you create yourself, whether you're an artist or you're creating a new life plan or you're creating a family, but it covers creativity in general, as well as education, but usually education through high school. Though if you're learning something, this energy can be affecting that as well. Now, so this is the sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So Saturn, as I've said to many people this past year, Saturn has the upper hand in this Saturn-Jupiter combination in Capricorn. It's Saturn's sign. It's his strongest sign. So Saturn brings in discipline, hard work, and he's often dreaded because he does require patience. Often there are obstacles and challenges that come our way that we need to address. You can't avoid them. If you avoid them, then whatever you want to create this year just gets delayed more. But if you work with Saturn's energy, if you're patient and disciplined and hardworking, and when challenges and obstacles come up to you, or you feel like you run into a giant horse steeple hurdle, it's because Saturn is saying stop, slow down, it's the wrong path, it's the wrong time, or there's something else you need to do first, and then you'll be able to soar over that hurdle. So I always suggest working with Saturn's energy. It's not for naught. It's important. And if you work with the Saturn energy, Saturn likes things that last long term. He will help you lay solid foundations in your creativity, in, you could say, even your romantic life. That would be dating life, if that's something you would lay a foundation for. But I feel like it'll more play out in like creative ventures, even artistic ventures, possibly an education element there, especially maybe if you teach small children, laying the foundation for starting a family, or laying those foundations brick by brick with the Saturn energy here, because again, he's very strong here in his own sign of Capricorn for your own business, becoming a sole proprietor, something like that. This is not the house of career, but those elements, the creative elements of your own business and entrepreneurship and so on, are part of fifth house energy. And I feel that very strongly for you, Virgo, this year. Okay, so Jupiter in Capricorn is debilitated. Jupiter brings growth and expansion, and that's not totally annihilated being here in Capricorn, especially being here, at the beginning of the year, conjoined Saturn, within 1 degree in Saturn's very happy home of Capricorn. So the growth and expansion energy is still there with Jupiter, and often he's thought of as, the good luck planet. But with Saturn there, however much you want things to grow and expand, it will be slowed down. I'll say if and unless, but also because, I know that sounds confusing, of Saturn's energy. So if you work with Saturn's energy, again, being patient, hardworking, disciplined, lay those foundations. When obstacles come up, don't beat your head against them, but instead say, okay, what do I need to do here? And accept that things will take a little bit longer. Then Jupiter's expansive energy has the freedom to move. It's only when you resist the challenges of Saturn, then Jupiter's also stuck. You have to get these to work together. They seem like opposites, but when you get opposites to work together, it creates this beautiful harmony. It's like alchemy, right? And yeah, Jupiter energy, because he rules Sagittarius, is connected with that Temperance card in the tarot, and that's what I see is creating alchemy. That's also a card of creation. So Temperance energy, I wasn't expecting that to come up, but Temperance energy is at play here for you, Virgo. Okay, so for the time when Jupiter is in Aquarius, again, mid-April through early September, he's freer. Even though in Vedic astrology, Saturn also rules Aquarius, Jupiter, like the flexibility of his expansion increases during that time. So you may find during that portion of the year, or even in December when he's back in Aquarius, that, sixth house is house of work, especially for those who are creating a business or building a business, even if you've already started it before, doing something on your own, or whatever it is you're creating. When Jupiter is here in the sixth house, again, mid-April to the beginning of September, and then in December, you're going to feel his flow much more. Okay, so that's going to be very beneficial. Looking at the nodes. So we have Rahu, also known as North Node if you're coming from the Western perspective, here in Taurus, and Ketu, they're always opposite each other, here in Scorpio. According to some sources, these are their exalted positions. Other sources I've read, these are their debilitated positions. I tend to see them powerful wherever they are because they are the nodes. And I won't go all deep into that. If you want to learn about the nodes a little bit more, get my book, Shedding Light on Jyotisha, to understand that. But this is where the nodal axis is for you, Virgo, in this year of 2021, in your 9th house and 3rd house axis. Now, Rahu in the 9th house. So Rahu, and these are, the transits, the placements at the beginning of the year. So it's like your year ahead, sort of, without looking at your personal natal chart, of course. But Rahu is the head of the snake, and he represents motivation, ambition. I was going to say excitement, which I don't normally say, but I want to add that in here. Like, what are you excited about? What are you driven to do? Getting a lot of excited energy, which is interesting. His negative side is illusion and getting kind of lost in your head. But because I'm feeling so much excited energy with Rahu here for you, I feel like more than hopefully the positive aspects will play out. And I always stress that everything, every planet, every sign, every house has positive and negative aspects. Rahu here is in your 9th house. 9th house is the house of spirituality, religion, life philosophy, politics, higher education. So there's another education element for you. So like college, university, and, continuing ed, things beyond high school. Also spiritual education. It's also politics and government. And there's a list goes on, but those are the main things that 9th house represents. And with Rahu here, I feel there's going to be a strong motivation and drive, and again, that excitement energy to not just explore, not just dive deeper, to almost like immerse yourself in your spirituality or your religion, if you're a specific religion, or just trying to understand life. And that may be through studying philosophy, or even, I don't normally get this with 9th house, but I'm getting it here, psychology. And that, because both Rahu and Jupiter have drishtis on each other, so drishti is an aspect, which are very specific in Vedic astrology, on each other here as the year begins. Either your spiritual, religious pursuits and motivation is going to inspire your creativity, or your creativity ties in with your spirituality. It probably is going to go both ways. Okay. Looking at K2 up here. So K2 is up here. So K2, or South Node, represents, like in the natal chart, represents past karma, past lives. In a chart, a transit chart like this for a year ahead, it represents the past. And I feel like it's representing this past year of 2020 very specifically, though of course, past lives and past karma plays in as well. But I feel like this is like, I just heard the words where we've come from. And so I feel you're the first reading I'm doing this. I feel that energy is probably going to be what comes in for every sign that I do. We're coming from third house energy. Third house is a house of communication, community, commuting. It's writing, it's talking. It often, in a modern sense, is like, Zoom meetings and Skype calls and, all the technological communication increase that we've all experienced this past year. And I don't feel like that goes away suddenly. But with K2 here, it's like we're coming from that. And K2 also represents spiritual seeking and spiritual wisdom. What have we learned from the ways we've had to communicate this past year? That ways that our community, because this is also community, it's also third house is also our neighbors and neighborhood, how we've connected to other people. It's changed things for everyone. And especially for you, Virgo, because this is in your third house. The experience of 2020. Yeah. It's kind of set things up for this creative and spiritual, I do want to say, burst of energy and hard work because of the Saturn energy in this year of 2021. Like you've learned something. That's what I'm getting. You've learned something about maybe how, maybe for some Virgos, it's like, oh, you love working from home and now you want to start your own business, or something opened up because of the events and how you communicate. And now you kind of have this creative inspiration and motivation to be an entrepreneur. That's just one example. But I feel like you've learned quite a lot from the communication and community and connectedness lessons of this past year. Okay. With K2, so I'll mention as the year begins, with K2, we have Venus here. Of course, she moves quickly, about approximately every 3 weeks or so. But with Venus here, along with K2 as the year begins, whatever you've learned about how to connect to other people, either online or in person, or how you want to communicate something out in the world, the Venus energy brings also in a creative element. So for you Virgos out there who are writers, this is great energy for this year ahead. And I should mention that ninth house is also house of publication. So if the past year of isolation, lockdowns, pandemic, being more on the computer, whatever it has been for you, has inspired writing or something else creative that you've done that communicates a message. With Rahu here in the ninth house, there's a great chance of it being published and put out in the world, or if you've already started that, it grows and expands and the motivation is there to do it more and more. Especially because it's Taurus, which is it's an earth sign. It's very earthy. It's very material in the sense that it's connecting to people in this earthly realm, if that makes sense. And K2 and Venus are in Scorpio, which is like coming out of hiding, bringing something out of hiding that you've learned within yourself or that you've been doing, that you've been creating and making it, sharing it with the world or putting it out there somehow. Okay, as the year begins, we also have Mars here in his own sign of Aries in the 8th house of change, death, change, transformation. I would just say with this energy, you're ready for change as 2021 begins and going into the year. I want to point out that Saturn and Jupiter here are opposite the moon as the year begins. Moon in her own sign of Cancer, in the 11th house of friends, acquaintances, networking, which is, both Saturn, well, they're opposite, so they all have drishtis upon each other. So that opens up, that lays out I want to say a nice web of network to share what you're building, share what you're creating, and especially for those entrepreneurs out there, to build your network. And I feel like you kind of have already started this as the year begins for those who are entrepreneurs, because of this placement as the year starts. But this also indicates an emotional, a deeper connection to the people. I won't necessarily say the people you're closest to, but the people you want to become closer to in the year of 2021. And lastly, our other planetary placements as the year begins for you, Virgo, is the Sun and Mercury here together in the sign of Sagittarius in your fourth house. Fourth house is home, family, property, the past lives, motherland. Again, the lists go on for the house representations, but usually it's like home, family, property, possibly mother. And we have the Sun and Mercury here. I want to say for some Virgos, and I say this also because it's the sign of Sagittarius, that if you're not happy where you live, I'm feeling the Sun representing joy and happiness. In a natal chart, it represents your soul, but this is a general reading, that you might want to move. And I don't typically get that with the Sun's placement, but for this reading for you, I'm feeling like, if you're not happy where you are, as soon as, COVID pandemic stuff allows, you're going to try to move. Move somewhere where you're more inspired, and I want to say inspired spiritually as well. And then, of course, Mercury is here. I'm feeling a strong energy of working from home. You probably have, many of you have been during the pandemic. And together, the feeling I'm getting here is if you're not happy where you live, and especially if it's because it's difficult to work from home, you're either going to change up your home or move your home to make it more conducive to work from home or to do the intellectual things, which could be study and education, that you need to do from home. So there's an energy of adjusting your home environment. I'll say it that way. Adjusting your home environment, possibly because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, getting creative with it. So it could be, painting the walls and getting rid of that old beat up furniture and getting something new or fixing things up so that the environment is more conducive, sort of like doing some feng shui in your home or vastu, to be productive in your home, whether it's study or it is work or, but being creative. Okay, so that is the gist of the energy for you for the year ahead, Virgo. I hope you found this interesting, and thank you for watching. Share this with other Virgos that you might know, and I will see you back here soon.